What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be getting something very unexpected for the Z. So this is not something I actually planned to get. This guy was actually looking to trade or sell his hatch, and I hit him up, asked him if he was down to trade for mine, and he was down to do it. So I'm getting a full carbon fiber hatch for the Z. So the guy that's coming over, his name is Ahmed. He should be here within a few minutes. I'll leave his Instagram somewhere right here so you guys can check out his page. But he has a clean 370Z. He should be here within a few minutes. So once he gets here, I'll show you his car, what it looks like, what we're gonna be doing. It's super easy, it should just be plug and play. So once he gets here, I'll pick it right back up. So I'll catch you guys in a few minutes. Alright, so here's the car. We're going to be removing this hatch and putting it on mine. And then we're gonna be putting my hatch pretty much on his car. This car's pretty sick, I like it. It's a different purple. I've never seen this car with this purple before. I'm really surprised on his fitment on his wheels. Oh, so these are 9.5. So if I would have got 9.5, I probably could have been able to use my Cosby's with no issues, because he has the big brakes, and he also has a spacer in there. But yeah, this is how his car looks. This thing looks dope. So I tried putting his car in my driveway, but it's way too low. Like, there's honestly this much space under his car. Like, that's how far his car is, the subframe, from actually touching the ground. So there's no way I'm gonna get over the speed bump or the actual driveway. So I just tried putting it in. It started scraping on the side splitters. So I was like, I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. I'm just gonna put it back, put it on the side, and I'll just take it off that way. So I have to pretty much walk it all the way over there. It's gonna be a little bit more time consuming, but once I get the hatch on, I'll pick it up, show you guys what I did exactly. It shouldn't be very complicated. Shout out to Stock Boys. I'll leave his YouTube channel. He was the only video that I could actually find that explained how to take off a hatch. So that really helped me out, because when I opened it, I was kind of struggling to figure out which wires I had to take off, but he really helped out on what I had to remove. So thank you for that. But let's get back to it. I'll go ahead and start removing the hatch, and I'll show you guys exactly what I had to do. Alright guys, so here is the trunk or the hatch installed. But as you can see, fitment is pretty good. I mean, you have a gap here, but of course you're gonna have a gap to allow it to pretty much open. But it's not bad, it looks pretty good. See, very minimal gaps. Here looks pretty good. I did have issues with the trunk latching. That's why I didn't get to record too much of the process and how everything came off. Honestly, this is super easy to take off, but it's just that the original hatch, the OEM one, is way too heavy for you to be able to lift it by yourself. This hatch, I was able to lift it by myself. I didn't have to have anybody else help me with this one. But taking the original one off, I had to have somebody else help me out to take it off. So the problem with the latch, I'm not sure if this is with all VIS racing trunks or latches, but the rear, there's two latches. There's one as like an emergency, you click it, and then once you click that button, it doesn't open all the way. So for example, if I unlatch it right now, see how I get stuck? That's the second latch. So the trunk was only latching on to that latch, and out the bottom one, securing it and not letting it. Pretty much looks like this. So as you can see, it's kind of loose. That's how it was sitting, and I had to make adjustments. Now the adjustments was only to the latch itself. Everything else was pretty good. So if we open it, now like I said, the trunk is super light, so you honestly only need one of these. But I have these aftermarket ones from Z1, so I didn't want to get rid of them, and it opens up the trunk really nicely. But for the trunk, I grabbed my original OEM piece that goes on here. I was able to put it on there. You have to make your holes for that, but the guy that previously had it for me, he actually made the holes, so I didn't have to do anything. But the problem came here with the latch. So when you remove this piece here, I'll try to remove it for you guys, that way you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. It was a pain. I didn't expect to have this many issues with the latch, but I'll show you exactly what happened. Okay, so here's the latch right here. Now if you look at your original latch, this hole shouldn't be there. This should be moved up, covering this hole. Now for the bottom, I had to cut this piece right here. So as you can see, this actually goes connected just like this top part. The bottom would be connected. I had to grind off this bottom part here, pretty much make a hole for me to slide the latch down a little bit and bolt it here. So as you can see, it's moved down, not even an inch, but quite a bit. I had to make larger holes with a metal plate cutter. I was able to cut it and make it go down a little bit, and that allowed it to pretty much latch from that point on. So I did have to make adjustments to it. That was the only adjustment that I had to make. Everything else, honestly, to remove the OEM one, it's super easy. You have to remove these trim pieces here on the edge. You take this off. Right here in the inside, there is a clip that you have to unclip that goes straight into this here, this grommet. So you take that off, you feed the connection all the way up to get it out. Once you do that, there's another one on the right side. The one on the right side is easy as well. This side only had one connection. So there was one connector here, it was blue, and the other one had two white ones. You have to remove two white ones on that side and pretty much feed it out from the hole that it has. After you do that, there's going to be 12mm nuts that you have to remove that are inside here. So if you open this, you'll be able to access two 12mm nuts here, or two more over there on that side as well, and that's what's going to unlatch the trunk or the hatch from the actual car. So like I said, it's super easy. There's only a total of 4 bolts. You also have to remove these if you want to keep them. These are 10 mils. So these 2 here and there's 2 on the other side. And honestly, that's pretty much it. And just disconnecting the lines. So it's super easy to take it off. But like I said, the original one is super heavy. The OEM one. So you have to get somebody else to help you out to remove that one. But this one's super light. I was able to pick this one up by myself, and I was able to put it on the car as well. But even now, I struggle to put on the hood or the latch. It still doesn't latch quite as good as it should. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to close it. It's really hard to close it with one hand, but I'll show you what I mean. So when you try to close it, this is what it would do. It just kept doing this and it wouldn't shut properly. Even like this, I can't close it right now. And you use both hands, open it, push it down really hard, and then it's gonna close. So I'll show you guys how it looks when I try to open it and then close. So see, that was extremely difficult to try to close. a lot harder than it should be. I guess it just needs a little bit more adjustment. But right there, it's latched. It's not going anywhere, even if I try to pull it open. So right there's good. But overall, I think it looks sick. Alright guys, so I came over here to a spot so I can talk about the trunk a little bit. So here's how the trunk looks. It looks really cool. I love it in my opinion. Like, I think the duckbill was a little bit cooler just because it was a little bit longer. So the previous duckbill that I had was from Fly 1. This is from VIS Racing. Now this is pretty expensive. I think this is over like $1,000 just for this hatch. But I got lucky enough and picked it up for relatively cheap. I honestly paid almost nothing for it because the guy that I bought it from, he was actually looking to trade his car in for a different one, so we needed pretty much OEM parts. So I got this for a really good deal. I pretty much traded with my hatch, especially because the amount of weight that you pretty much save when switching from trunk setups. So this VIS one weighs almost nothing compared to the OEM one. Like I mentioned earlier, the OEM one is really heavy. Like, you're talking over a few hundred pounds just for the hatch. And I wasn't able to pick it up by myself. I had somebody like hold it from the other side. So here's how it looks. So I kind of wish it was a little bit bigger, the duckbill, but I think it looks really cool. It would probably look a little bit sicker with like a chassis mounted spoiler, but I think this looks good too. I mean, it's not bad. I like my old duckbill, how it stuck out a little bit further, but I think this looks good as well. But my favorite part honestly is the hatch right there. The light does work. I did wire it up. Well, the guy who had it before me, he actually had it wired up correctly. He had it wired up to the little connection that goes here. I just had to pretty much plug it in for it to work. So there was no like aftermarket wiring that I had to do. Everything was pretty much functional. Just plugged it in and it worked perfectly fine. Now, when it comes to Fitment is really good. Like, of course, you're gonna have a little bit of a gap right there, just because the hatch has to be able to open. It is, I think, a little bit bigger than it was before, but when it comes to aftermarket parts, especially like carbon fiber, nothing's really gonna be perfect. I mean, it can be close, but it's not always gonna be perfect. This is how it looks from a distance. How it looks from the side. So you can still see the duckbill right there, so that looks pretty cool. From the back. How it looks from the side. I'm really happy with how this came out. I think it just goes perfectly with the hatch and then the carbon fiber fenders along with the hood. It just flows perfectly, especially because the car is black as well. So I just think it looks really good. Now the hatch of this here, I don't think it's actually made out of glass. I think it's made out of, I believe it's called plexiglass, so it's kind of like plastic. So that was pretty interesting. But I think that's what saves the car a lot of weight, is because it's not made out of glass. And then it was pretty much removing all the glass that was right here, because glass is pretty heavy. So removing that and then just adding a bunch of carbon is really gonna decrease the amount of weight that the hatch has itself. But yeah, like I said, if you really want to save weight, I think this is one of the biggest things that you can do to the car to save weight, because the OEM hatch was so heavy. That's the thing that really surprised me the most about this, was how much weight is actually saved from this hatch from the other hatch. It just saves so much weight. Now let me show you guys the third brake light, just to pretty much show you how it looks. So that's pretty much how the third brake light looks. I think it looks pretty cool. It's pretty much the same brightness as the other ones, so there's no real big difference on that. But it's a good thing that they added it, because I think it looks really cool. If it would have been plain, I don't think it would look as good as it does now. But I think it's a good idea that they added that on there. Now let me show you guys the inside. So this is what the inside looks like. So it's pretty much like a vent kind of thing. So it goes in here, and it has a good clearance here. It doesn't hit on anything. But that's how the inside looks, as you don't have that big window right here. Now I will mention another thing, is that the car does feel a lot cooler, just because the window, it tracks a lot of heat inside of the car. Now because the window is removed, there's not a lot of heat coming in, so the car does actually feel cooler when inside, especially when you leave it out. The car is not as hot as it was before, so that's another plus. But nothing really much to talk about. The only bad thing about it is the hatch doesn't lock properly all the time. So if I try to lock it, just like I explained earlier, I have a few issues with it trying to close it. Let me show you guys what the interior looks like from the driver's perspective on the trunk. So if you look at the inside, this is how it looks. To me, it's honestly no different than what it looked like before. It looks almost exactly the same. Now let's change it to the other side. So if you look at it from the mirror, it's a little bit smaller, but it's not a huge difference. One thing I will tell you though is that the duckbill is not as big as my previous one, the Fly one. So you have actually a little bit more space to be able to see from the rear view mirror. So that's one plus. You actually have a little bit more space to see. But yet again, this is a sports car. You can't really see out of it anyway. You have a lot of like limited space to pretty much be able to see. So I know you have like blind spots and everything. This is almost the same. So if you're worried about visibility, it's pretty much the same thing, honestly. There's nothing that you can really do to really make it any better. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.